My name is Lydia Mercer. I was 42 years old when my older brother stood in the lobby of the animal rescue I built, pointed at the leash, looped around my wrist, and told a county compliance officer I was just the kennel girl. He said it in front of 2 donors, 3 volunteers, a local reporter, and a woman from the state animal registry who had driven 90 minutes with a folder under her arm. Behind him was a new banner I had never approved. Mercer Family Animal Rescue, not Second Chance Hollow, not the name I had registered 8 years earlier after my father died, not the name printed on every adoption certificate, every vaccine sheet, every chipped collar tag, and every intake record since the first winter I slept on a cot beside 12 frightened dogs because the heat in Kennel Row had failed. My brother Grant had already submitted a $620,000 county animal welfare contract packet, with himself listed as executive director, his wife listed as public relations consultant, my mother listed as founder, and me listed as kennel support. On page 9, under proposed first-year expenses, he had written one line that told me exactly what this was. Family stabilization and leadership reimbursement, $54,000. Not kennels, not vaccines, not spay appointments, not emergency feed. Himself. Then, under operational history, Grant signed this sentence. Incoming Director Grant Mercer has personally supervised animal intake, medical coordination, and adoption compliance for the past 24 months. That was the lie. The mistake was thinking nobody would check it. The second mistake was calling me the kennel girl, while the old yellow microchip scanner was still clipped to my belt. The third mistake was forgetting that every dog, every cat, every rabbit, every emergency intake, every vaccine appointment, every adoption hold, and every return-to-owner case had passed through that cracked little scanner under my operator ID. By 10:17 that morning, that scanner would sit on a county review table while a compliance officer read 9,842 registry entries into the microphone. Grant's total would be 0. Before we continue, I want to say this. Hidden Revenge Stories shares stories about people who stop disappearing inside their own families. If this story speaks to you, tell me where you are listening from, and tell me this. Have you ever done the work while someone else took the title? Now let me tell you about the first dog. My father found him behind Mercer Auto Repair in February, 8 years before my brother tried to rename my life. The shop sat on County Road 11, just outside Fairbridge, Ohio, with 3 service bays, a gravel lot, and a crooked sign my father refused to replace because he said the letters had character. I was 34 then. I worked the front desk at the shop, ordering parts, answering phones, and pretending my father's coughing was not getting worse. The dog was wedged behind a stack of old tires near the back fence, black, shaking, ribs showing through his fur, one ear torn, eyes too tired for a puppy and too young for a stray. Dad wrapped him in a moving blanket and carried him into Bay 2. "Lydia," he said, "get the heater closer." That was my father. No speech, no announcement, just the next right thing. We called the dog Bolt because he chewed through 2 electrical cords in his first week and lived to regret neither. The nearest shelter said they were full. The county said they could put him on a waiting list. My father looked at the dog curled under his workbench and said, "Nobody waits outside in February if there's a roof with room." So Bolt stayed. Then a beagle came. Then 3 kittens in a cardboard beer box. Then a pregnant shepherd mix found near the quarry. By summer, the back half of Mercer Auto Repair had become less of a mechanic shop and more of a place where abandoned animals learned that hands could be safe. My father never called it rescue. He called it not looking away. When he died 18 months later, the shop changed overnight. Grant wanted to sell it. My mother wanted to divide whatever money came from the sale and move forward. I wanted to keep the building because there were 17 animals in the back, and 3 of them were on medication. Grant said, "Lydia, you cannot build a life around dogs nobody wanted." That sentence became the first brick. I did not answer him that day. I stayed late, cleaned Kennel Row, refilled water bowls, and sat on the concrete floor with Bolt's head in my lap until the old shop lights buzzed themselves into silence. 2 months after Dad's funeral, I registered Second Chance Hollow as a nonprofit. At first, it was ugly and practical. Folding tables, donated towels, a broken office chair, one used washing machine that shook so hard during the spin cycle, it walked 3 inches across the floor. We had 12 kennels, 4 foster homes, 1 volunteer vet tech named Marisol, and a spreadsheet that crashed if you looked at it wrong. I was not polished. I was not a fundraiser. I was not the woman people noticed first at charity events. I was the woman who could get a terrified dog out from under a porch at midnight, remember which kitten needed eye drops, and tell from one bark whether the husky in Kennel 6 was scared, bored, or about to throw up a sock. I did not know how to win a family argument, but I knew how to read an animal record. That became my sentence. Every intake got logged. Every microchip got scanned. Every vaccine went into the file. Every adoption contract had a copy. Every owner surrender had a timestamp. Every bite hold, rabies certificate, foster transfer, vet invoice, and state registry update was stored under my operator ID. The yellow scanner came from a retired animal control officer named Dottie Vale. It was already old when she gave it to me. The screen had a crack across the corner. The battery door was held with tape. It beeped a little too loudly and sometimes needed to be tapped against my palm before it would read. Dottie said, "It's ugly, but ugly records still count." I clipped it to my belt and used it for 8 years. Grant laughed the first time he saw it. "You look like a grocery clerk for dogs," he said. That was my family's way. If they could make a thing small enough to joke about, they did not have to respect it. My mother called Second Chance Hollow Lydia's animal thing. Grant called it the dog warehouse. His wife Brielle called it heartwarming but unsustainable. Brielle had a lifestyle blog, a white kitchen, 2 children who were never allowed to touch muddy dogs, and a voice that made every insult sound like a suggestion. For years, they ignored the rescue unless they needed something from me. When Grant's daughter wanted volunteer hours for school, I signed the form after she folded towels for 45 minutes and spent 3 hours taking selfies with puppies. When my mother's friend needed a small dog for her granddaughter, my mother called me and said, "You must have one somewhere." When Brielle wanted photos for a charity post, she came in wearing beige linen, held 1 clean puppy for 6 minutes, and wrote online that our family had always believed in rescue. Our family. That phrase had a way of arriving after my work was already done. For 8 years, I kept going. At 36, we passed our first county inspection. At 38, we took over emergency overflow when the municipal shelter flooded. At 40, we started a low-cost microchip clinic that reunited 219 lost animals with their owners in 1 year. At 41, we applied for county animal welfare funding. That was when Grant noticed. Not when I cleaned parvo cages in a face shield until 2 in the morning. Not when I drove through sleet to pick up a litter of puppies dumped behind a gas station. Not when I paid for a furnace repair with the last $2,300 in my savings because the dogs needed heat more than I needed a cushion. Grant noticed when the county announced a 3-year animal welfare contract worth $620,000. That number brought my family through the front door faster than compassion ever had. The first conversation happened on a Friday afternoon in April. I was in intake room 2, scanning a skinny orange cat found behind the library. The scanner beeped once, then twice, then gave me a number. I typed it into the state registry portal. No owner match. I named him Finch because he screamed like a bird. Grant walked in, wearing a navy jacket and shoes too clean for Kennel Row. Behind him was Brielle, holding her phone out like the building was scenery. My mother came last, which told me this was not a visit. This was a formation. Grant looked around and smiled. "You've done a lot with the place." I kept typing. "You were here 6 months ago." "Sure, but now it feels like there's real potential." There it was. Potential. The word people use when they discover money attached to something they used to mock. Brielle wrinkled her nose at the smell of disinfectant. "I told Grant the brand just needs elevation," Finch hissed in the carrier. I liked him immediately. "What do you want?" I asked. My mother sighed. "Lydia, don't start guarded." Guarded meant I had noticed the gate before they could walk through it. Grant placed a folder on the intake table. "We want to talk about the county contract." I did not touch the folder. "There is no we." Grant laughed softly. "See, this is what I mean. You've been doing everything alone for so long that you hear help as an attack." Brielle nodded like that was deep. Grant continued, "The county money changes things. This cannot stay a one-woman rescue with volunteer energy. It needs leadership." "I am leadership," he smiled. "You are heart." That was worse. Heart is what people call your labor when they want someone else to hold the authority. He opened the folder. There was a proposed organizational chart. At the top, Grant Mercer, Executive Director. Under him, Brielle Mercer, Community Engagement Consultant. To the side, Ruth Mercer, Founding Family Advisor. Near the bottom, Lydia Mercer, Kennel Operations. Kennel Operations. I stared at the page. For 8 years, I had signed every compliance form, every vet partnership agreement, every emergency intake request, every adoption hold, every state registry update, and my family had put me under a box labeled Kennel Operations. I looked at Grant. "No," my mother's mouth tightened. "You have not even heard him out." "I heard enough." Brielle set her phone down. "Lydia, the county will want a professional face." I looked at her clean beige sleeves. "The county wants animals accounted for." Grant's voice sharpened. "And who is going to speak to donors? You? In your mud boots?" I glanced down. I was wearing rubber boots with bite marks on the left toe because a shepherd mix named Waffles had emotional issues and poor aim. "Yes," I said. "If the donors have questions about the animals," my mother said, "Grant is trying to make sure Dad's name becomes something bigger." That landed. Of course it did. They knew where to put my father. They always had. I looked through the intake room window at Kennel Row. Bolt was old by then, white around the muzzle, asleep on his blanket near the office door, because he had earned the right to go wherever he wanted. "Dad's name is already in this place," I said. "It is in every animal that did not wait outside." Grant closed the folder. "Think about it." "I have." He smiled again, but this time it did not reach his eyes. "Then think faster." That was the first stage, a conversation. By the next week, it became pressure. My mother called me on Tuesday at 6:40 a.m. while I was hosing down Kennel 4. "You hurt your brother." Grant tried to take my job. He tried to protect the rescue from your stubbornness. I turned off the hose. Water ran toward the drain, carrying hair, soap, and bits of yesterday's chaos. "Mom, I have 38 animals in the building and 6 vet appointments today." "You always do that." "Do what?" "Hide behind the animals." I looked at the wet concrete floor. I had heard that before. Hide behind work. Hide behind responsibility. Hide behind the thing everyone else was too comfortable using to see as real. "I am not hiding," I said. "I am working." Her voice softened. "Your father would have wanted Grant involved." I closed my eyes. My father's memory had become a tool in their hands, a hammer wrapped in velvet. "No," I said. "Dad would have asked whether Kennel 4 was dry before the puppies went back in." She hung up first. That was rare. It meant she had expected the sentence to work. 2 days later, the first new piece of information arrived. Marisol, my volunteer vet tech, came into the office holding her phone. Marisol was 39, 5 feet tall, and able to restrain an angry tomcat with the calm of a woman folding laundry. She had worked with me for 7 years and did not waste alarm, so when she said, "You need to see this," I listened. The email was from Grant. Subject: Second Chance Hollow Leadership Transition. It had gone to 3 donors. "Dear friends of the Mercer family, as Second Chance Hollow enters a new stage of county partnership, I am stepping into the executive director role to provide professional leadership and long-term growth. Lydia will continue supporting kennel care during this transition." Supporting kennel care, I read that phrase 3 times, not because it was clever, because erasure often arrives politely dressed. Attached was a donor presentation. Slide 1 had our logo. Slide 2 had Grant's photo. Grant Mercer, incoming executive director. Slide 3 had a photo of me carrying a trembling pit bull into intake during a thunderstorm. The caption said, "Kennel support volunteer. Volunteer." I had taken that dog from a roadside drainage ditch at 1:12 a.m. with a flashlight in my teeth and blood on my sleeve. Volunteer. Marisol watched me. "Do you want me to call him?" "No." "Do you want me to swear?" "Later." She nodded. I forwarded the email to myself, printed it, and placed it in a red folder labeled Donor Misrepresentation. There are moments when you do not need to know the whole plan. You just need to know the page belongs in the folder. The second new piece came from the county portal. On April 29th at 11:38 p.m., someone uploaded an operating authority transfer packet submitted by Grant Mercer. I was in the office when the notification appeared. The rescue was quiet except for Bolt snoring by the heater and Finch knocking a metal dish against his carrier because Finch had opinions about captivity. I opened the packet. 26 pages. New organization name, Mercer Family Animal Rescue. Requested county contract transfer, $620,000. Executive Director, Grant Mercer. Community Engagement Consultant, Brielle Mercer. Founding Advisor, Ruth Mercer. Current Operator, Lydia Mercer. Kennel Operations. There was a proposed budget. Family Stabilization and Leadership Reimbursement, $54,000. Community Branding Consultant, $31,500. Executive Director Onboarding Stipend, $68,000. Facility Modernization Vendor, Mercer Holdings LLC. Mercer Holdings LLC was Grant's side company. I sat very still. Bolt lifted his head and looked at me. Dogs know the sound of a person trying not to break. Then I found the operational history section. Incoming Director Grant Mercer has personally supervised animal intake, medical coordination, and adoption compliance for the past 24 months. Grant had signed it. Digitally, at 11:36 p.m., that was the moment he stopped being annoying and became useful. Because a lie spoken at a family table can evaporate. A lie signed inside a county packet stays available. I downloaded the packet, I printed it. Then I opened the registry export tool. The state animal registry was not beautiful. It looked like it had been designed in 2009 by someone who distrusted color. But it recorded everything: microchip scan, intake timestamp, operator ID, medical hold, vaccine update, owner search, adoption release, return to owner confirmation. For 24 months, the registry held 9,842 entries connected to Second Chance Hollow. I exported all of them. Operator ID, L. Mercer 01. The third new piece came from Brielle. She posted a video, of course she did. Brielle did not experience a room unless she could caption it. The video showed her standing outside the rescue sign, smiling into the camera. "Big news from our family," she said. "We are stepping into leadership at Second Chance Hollow to help take this beautiful mission countywide. Grant has been quietly guiding the rescue for years, and it is finally time to make it official, quietly guiding." Behind her, Waffles barked so loudly the audio clipped. I saved the video before she deleted it. Then I noticed the caption, "So proud to help bring professionalism to a rescue that has run on heart for too long. Heart again." They loved that word. It made my exhaustion sound adorable. The fourth new piece came from Dottie Vale. Dottie was 66 by then, retired from animal control, still wearing cargo pants, still cutting her own hair with kitchen scissors, still capable of making grown men explain why a gate had been left open. She came in on a Thursday with a shoebox of donated leashes and found me standing in the office doorway, staring at Grant's packet. She read 2 pages without speaking. Then she said, "He signed this?" "Yes." "Bless his empty little head." That was Dottie. She sat at my desk and pointed at the scanner. "You still using the yellow beast?" "Every day." "You ever update the state contact authorization?" "Yes." "Whose name?" Mine. Vet intake portal? Mine. Adoption release account? Mine. County emergency overflow list? Mine. Dottie leaned back. Then stopped looking like someone stole the building. He stole a costume. Let him wear it where the cameras are. I looked at her. What does that mean? It means don't fight him in your lobby. Make him say it where records answer back. That afternoon, Dottie gave me the name of the County Animal Control Compliance Officer, Margaret Keene. Margaret Keene did not sound friendly on the phone. She sounded busy. That was fine. Busy people often respect documents more than emotions. I told her Grant had submitted an authority transfer packet. She said, "Are you the current license operator?" "Yes." "Have you resigned?" "No." "Did you authorize Mercer Family Animal Rescue to use Second Chance Hollow's operating history?" "No." "Did Grant Mercer supervise animal intake, medical coordination, and adoption compliance for 24 months?" "No." I heard typing. Then she said, "Send the transfer packet, registry export, vet portal summary, and any donor-facing communication that claims a transition." I sent everything. At 4:12 p.m. she replied, "Received. Do not confront the applicant. Bring the scanner fully charged to the review." I read that line twice. Bring the scanner fully charged. Not bring your pain. Not bring your family history. Not bring proof that you are a good person. Bring the scanner. That was when I understood exactly how this would end. The review was scheduled for the following Monday at 10 a.m. Grant did not know I knew. That was his second stupid mistake. He thought filing paperwork made him powerful. He did not understand paperwork speaks in both directions. Friday evening, he came to the rescue with Brielle and my mother. I was in Kennel Row cleaning after a litter of shepherd puppies who had discovered mud with religious enthusiasm. Grant stood in the doorway and looked at the wet floor. "We need to present a united front Monday." I kept scrubbing. "Do we?" Brielle said. "The county likes stability. So do animals." My mother said, "Lydia, please do not be difficult in front of officials." I looked up. "Difficult how?" Grant's face tightened. "Do not make it emotional. We'll acknowledge everything you've contributed." Contributed. I had built the intake system, built the foster network, built the vet relationships, built the emergency overflow contract, built the adoption screening process, built the quarantine room with donated tile and a YouTube tutorial at midnight. Contributed. I wrung out the mop. "What exactly do you want me to say?" Grant relaxed, thinking negotiation had begun. "Just that you support the transition." "No." Brielle took a step forward. "Lydia, if you embarrass Grant, you embarrass the family." That was the old trap. Family as a leash. Family as a crate. Family as a word they clipped to your collar and called love. My mother said, "Your father would be ashamed of this fighting." I set the mop against the wall. "My father would be ashamed of a $54,000 reimbursement line before a single kennel repair." Grant's face changed. He had not expected me to know the number. Brielle's phone lowered half an inch. My mother looked at Grant. "What reimbursement line?" For the first time, I realized Grant had not shown her the whole packet. "Interesting." He recovered quickly. "Administrative language," he said. "No," I said. "It is a budget request." Mother looked confused, then angry, but not at him yet. She was not ready for that. Grant pointed toward the kennel rows. "See, this is why you cannot lead. You take every process personally." A dog in Kennel 7 barked. Then another. Then the whole row erupted, not because they understood him, but because animals know when a room changes temperature. Grant raised his voice over the barking. "Monday, let me handle the talking." I smiled then. "Not much. Please do." He mistook that for surrender. That was his third stupid mistake. Monday came clear and cold. At 6 a.m., I fed Bolt his pills inside a piece of cheese. He was 12 by then, stiff in the hips, white around the face, still convinced he owned every soft blanket in the building. I clipped the yellow scanner to my belt. The battery was fully charged. At 7:18, Marisol arrived with coffee and a flash drive containing vet intake summaries. At 7:41, Dottie arrived with a printed state registry authorization letter, proving I was the only approved registry operator for Second Chance Hollow. At 8:03, our partner veterinarian, Dr. Samuel Pike, emailed a letter confirming all medical coordination had gone through my office for 8 years. At 8:27, Margaret Keene filed a preliminary compliance hold on the transfer packet. At 9:12, I drove to the county services building with the yellow scanner on the passenger seat and Bolt's old first intake collar in my bag. I do not know why I brought the collar. Maybe because some part of me needed to remember this had started with a dog behind tires, not a contract. The county review room was on the first floor, past the licensing counter, where people renewed dog tags and complained about barking ordinances. The room had beige walls, a long table, 12 folding chairs, a county seal, and a smell-like printer toner and wet coats. Small room, not private. A minutes clerk sat near the front. 2 donors came in and sat together. Marisol sat behind me. Dottie sat beside her, arms crossed. Dr. Pike stood near the wall because he had come between surgeries and did not trust himself to sit. A reporter from the Fairbridge Gazette arrived at 9:48. Grant entered at 9:52 wearing a charcoal suit. Brielle wore cream and carried a leather portfolio. My mother wore pearls. They looked like a family arriving to accept a plaque. Grant saw me and smiled. "Good," he said. "You came. I was invited. Just remember, Lydia, this is bigger than your feelings." I looked at the folder in his hand. "Did you read the registry requirements before you signed the packet?" His smile flickered. Brielle answered for him. "We have counsel." That was not a yes. At 10 o'clock, Margaret Keene entered. She was tall, black, about 50, with silver at her temples and reading glasses hanging from a cord. She carried 1 binder, 1 tablet, and no visible patients for theater. Her badge did not look decorative. It looked like a locked gate. Margaret did not greet me first. She greeted the room. "This review concerns the requested transfer of operating authority for Second Chance Hollow Animal Rescue to Mercer Family Animal Rescue." Grant sat straighter. Margaret continued, "We will review signed statements, registry authority, medical coordination records, and county contract eligibility." Brielle whispered something to Grant. He nodded. At 10:06, Margaret invited him to speak. Grant stood. He was good. I will give him that. He spoke about growth, countywide impact, family legacy, professional management, donor confidence, and how my father had believed in second chances. He said my father's name 3 times. He said our family rescue 6 times. He said Lydia's heart twice. Then he turned toward me and made the mistake we all came to hear. "My sister has always been devoted to the hands-on side," he said, "but she is not equipped to direct a county contract. She is just the kennel girl." The minutes clerk typed. Marisol's coffee cup stopped halfway to her mouth. Dottie smiled without showing teeth. Margaret Keene looked at Grant. "Thank you. Please sit." He sat, pleased with himself. That lasted 11 seconds. Margaret opened the binder. "I will now read the signed operational history statement from the transfer packet." She adjusted her glasses. "Incoming Director Grant Mercer has personally supervised animal intake, medical coordination, and adoption compliance for the past 24 months. She looked up. "Mr. Mercer, did you sign this statement?" Grant smiled. "Yes." "Do you stand by it?" "With context, yes." Margaret paused. "Context will not change the registry." That was the first crack. Grant blinked. Margaret turned to the county tablet. At 8:27 this morning, a preliminary compliance hold was placed on this transfer packet. The state registry export for Second Chance Hollow shows 9,842 entries during the 24-month review period. She looked at the screen. Operator ID L Mercer 01 appears on 9,842 entries. My name was not spoken gently. It was spoken officially. Operator ID G Mercer does not exist in the registry. Grant Mercer appears on 0 intake scans, 0 medical holds, 0 adoption releases, 0 owner return confirmations, and 0 compliance updates. The room went quiet. Not silent, quiet. There is a difference. Silence can be empty. Quiet can be full of people understanding at the same time. Grant's mouth opened. That is because Lydia controlled access. Margaret looked at him. Access is controlled by state registry authorization. You submitted no authorization request until after the transfer packet was uploaded. She turned one page. Request submitted May 1st at 12:14 a.m. Rejected May 1st at 12:16 a.m. Reason: no current operator release attached. Brielle shifted. My mother looked at Grant. He did not look back. Margaret continued. The packet also claims medical coordination supervision. Dr. Samuel Pike submitted a letter this morning confirming that all medical coordination, vaccine records, spay and neuter scheduling, quarantine releases, and emergency treatment approvals have been handled by Lydia Mercer or her designated veterinary technician, Marisol Vega. Dr. Pike cleared his throat from the wall. For 8 years, he said. Margaret nodded. For 8 years. Grant leaned forward. I have been involved strategically. Margaret looked at him for a long moment. Strategic involvement is not animal intake supervision, Dottie muttered. Put that on a shirt. Marisol coughed into her coffee. At 10:17, Margaret asked for the scanner. I unclipped the yellow scanner from my belt. The room watched me place it on the table. It looked ridiculous under fluorescent lights. Scratched plastic, tape on the battery door, a crack across the corner. Ugly records still count. Margaret pressed the power button. The scanner beeped. She connected it to the county tablet with a cable from her bag. Grant stared at it as if it had betrayed him personally. Margaret read the device ID aloud. Scanner YS4439. Registered to Second Chance Hollow. Primary operator, Lydia Mercer. Last sync, this morning, 6:42 a.m. She opened the scan history. Recent intake, cat, orange male, no owner match. Operator, Lydia Mercer. Finch. Emergency intake. Dog, female, found County Road 18. Operator, Lydia Mercer. Waffles. Owner return. Terrier mix. Chip match to owner in Ashland. Operator, Lydia Mercer. Margaret scrolled. The scanner records do not show Grant Mercer as operator on any synced intake. Grant said, obviously I was not scanning animals myself. Margaret looked at him. Your signed statement says you personally supervised animal intake. I supervised the direction. The animals were not registered under direction. They were registered under operator ID. That was the second crack. Then Margaret turned to the budget page. The packet requests family stabilization and leadership reimbursement in the amount of $54,000. It requests community branding consultant fees of $31,500 payable to Brielle Mercer. It requests an executive director onboarding stipend of $68,000. It also lists Mercer Holdings LLC as preferred facility modernization vendor. She looked at Grant. Do you own Mercer Holdings LLC? Grant's jaw tightened. Yes. Was that disclosed as a related party vendor? Brielle answered. It is in the packet. Margaret turned a page. It is listed as preferred vendor. It is not disclosed as a related party. Brielle's face went pale. Margaret said, county animal welfare funds are restricted. They may be used for shelter operation, veterinary care, transport, facility compliance, emergency intake support, foster supplies, and approved staffing. They may not be used to reimburse family members for unverified leadership transition, nor to pay related party vendors without disclosure and approval, my mother whispered. Grant. One word. Small. Late. Grant's face reddened. This is being framed unfairly. Lydia has always resisted help. She is emotionally attached to the rescue. Margaret looked down at the scanner, then at the binder, then at Grant. Animals in county care are not managed by emotional attachment. They are managed by records, licensing, and compliance. Then she looked at me. Ms. Mercer, did you authorize this transfer? I stood. No. Did you authorize Mercer Family Animal Rescue to use Second Chance Hollow's operating history? No. Did you resign as operator? No. Can you confirm continued service under current contract requirements? Yes. Do you have current animal count? I did not look at a note. 46 dogs, 19 cats, 3 rabbits, 1 pregnant shepherd mix and foster, 7 medical holds, 4 adoption holds, and 2 owner search cases pending. Dottie whispered, "That's my girl." Margaret wrote it down. Grant stared at me. It was not the stare of a brother seeing his sister. It was the stare of a man watching a locked door refuse to become a hallway. At 10:29, Margaret opened public comment. Donor 1 spoke first. Her name was Celia Broad, and she had funded our quarantine room after her husband died. I gave to Second Chance Hollow because Lydia Mercer sent me photographs of the room being built, receipts for every tile, and the first dog who slept there after surgery. She said, I did not give to Mercer Family Animal Rescue. I did not authorize my donation to support a rebrand. Donor 2 said Grant had contacted him about a leadership dinner before the transfer was approved. Marisol stood. She was shaking, but her voice was clear. I have handled medical intake with Lydia for 7 years. Grant Mercer has never supervised a vaccine clinic, never signed a quarantine release, never stayed through a parvo watch, and never held a dog while I placed an IV catheter. Dr. Pike stood last. I do not care what the rescue is called on a banner, he said. I care who answers the phone at 2 a.m. when an animal is crashing. That has been Lydia Mercer. The minutes clerk typed every word. My mother did not move. Brielle's portfolio was closed now. Grant's hands were flat on the table. At 10:41, Margaret gave her findings. Based on false operational history, unauthorized use of operating records, lack of current operator release, undisclosed related party vendor conflict, and unallowable family reimbursement requests, I recommend immediate denial of the operating authority transfer. She turned to the board representative seated beside her. I further recommend freezing all reimbursement requests connected to Mercer Family Animal Rescue, removing Grant Mercer from donor-facing and county-facing communications regarding this contract, confirming Lydia Mercer as active operator, and referring the signed false certification to County Council for review. The board representative nodded, accepted, just like that. No shouting, no collapse onto the floor, no dramatic confession. Just a county official accepting reality in sentence form. Transfer denied. Reimbursement frozen. Related party vendor flagged. False certification referred. Active operator confirmed. That is how structure sounds when it finally lands. Grant stood too fast. This is absurd. Margaret looked at him. The review is complete. My family built this place. I looked at him then. No, I said. Dad opened the door. I kept it open. He turned toward me. You wanted this. I touched the scanner on the table. You asked the county to see who ran this place. So I brought the animals, records. That was my whole speech. I had spent too many years explaining myself to people who benefited from not understanding. I was done giving lectures to closed doors. After the meeting, Grant tried to catch me in the hallway. Brielle stayed back, speaking quickly into her phone. My mother followed him, one hand at her throat. Lydia, Grant said. I kept walking until we reached the licensing counter. A woman ahead of us was renewing tags for 2 golden retrievers, and one of them was licking the floor like it contained secrets. Ordinary life has a way of refusing to pause for family disasters. Grant lowered his voice. You could have warned me. I looked at him. I did. When? When I said no. He flinched. My mother stepped closer. This went too far. No, I said. It went on record. Grant's face twisted. You made me look like a thief. You signed a packet that tried to pay you $54,000 from animal welfare money. That was transitional language. It had your name on it. Brielle joined us then. Her face was tight. My consulting fee was standard. I looked at her cream blazer, her clean hands, her perfect phone case. You tried to sell professionalism to a place you could not stand to smell. She looked away first. My mother whispered, "Your father would hate seeing his children like this." For years that sentence would have folded me. Not because it was true, because I missed him enough to accept almost any punishment wrapped in his name. This time, I held the yellow scanner in my hand. My father hated locked doors when there was room inside. I said, "Grant tried to lock me out of the place I kept open." My mother started to cry. I did not comfort her. That felt cruel for about 3 seconds. Then it felt honest. The written decision arrived 2 days later. The transfer packet was denied. Mercer Family Animal Rescue was barred from using Second Chance Hollow's operating history in any county application for 3 years. The $54,000 family reimbursement request was rejected. The $31,500 consulting line was rejected. Mercer Holdings LLC was removed from vendor eligibility pending conflict review. Grant was prohibited from representing himself as director, operator, or authorized agent of Second Chance Hollow, and I was confirmed as active operator for the remainder of the contract term. The first morning after the decision, I arrived at the rescue at 5:22. It was raining, not hard, just enough to darken the gravel and make the kennel smell like wet fur and disinfectant. The old sign above the door still said, Second Chance Hollow. One corner had peeled. A spider had built a web near the H. I unlocked the front door with my own key. Bolt was waiting inside the office, stiff but determined, tail thumping against the floor. I sat beside him before turning on the lights. For the first time in weeks, I cried. Not because I had won, because I had been holding my breath inside my own life and had not known it until the door opened and no one else's name was on it. Marisol came in at 6 with coffee and said nothing when she saw my face. She just handed me a paper towel because rescue people are practical about tears. Dottie arrived at 6:30, carrying a new battery pack for the scanner. "Old Beast deserves a pension plan," she said. Dr. Pike dropped off vaccine records at 7 and pretended not to notice the red around my eyes. At 8:04, a woman named Paige came to meet a 3-legged spaniel named Daisy. Daisy had been abandoned behind a storage unit with a note taped to her crate. She was shy. She shook when doors closed too loudly. She liked cheese and women who sat on the floor without reaching too fast. Paige sat on the floor for 26 minutes. Daisy crawled into her lap on minute 27. That was the first adoption after the review. When Paige signed the paperwork, I looked at the top of the certificate. Second Chance Hollow Animal Rescue, authorized operator Lydia Mercer. I did not realize Marisol was watching until she said, "Frame that one." I did. The certificate copy hangs in my office now, next to Bolt's first collar. My mother did not call for 9 days. When she finally did, I was in the laundry room pulling towels from the dryer. She said I did not know about the vendor company. I closed the dryer door. That is not the same as not knowing he was taking my place. Silence. Then, quietly, she said, "No." One word. Not enough. But more than she usually gave. "I wanted him to have something," she said. I sat on the wooden bench by the laundry sink. "You gave him things that were mine." Her breath caught. "I thought you were stronger." There it was, the family math. Grant needed chances. I had strength, so his wanting counted more than my keeping. "I am strong," I said. "That is why I am done paying for his weakness." She cried then. I let her. When she finished, I said, "You cannot come to the rescue for a while." "How long?" "I don't know." "I'm your mother." "Yes," I said, "and you helped him erase me." She did not argue. That was new. Grant sent one email. Subject: "You went too far." I did not open it for 3 days. When I did, it was exactly what I expected. A paragraph about family betrayal. A paragraph about how I had humiliated him. A paragraph about how the county misunderstood everything. One sentence about how Dad would have wanted us to work together. I saved it in a folder labeled Boundary. Then I replied, Grant, do not contact donors, volunteers, veterinarians, county staff, or adopters regarding Second Chance Hollow. Do not use our name, history, animal records, photographs, or contract information. All future contact about the rescue should go through County Council. Lydia, no insult. No explanation, no opening. Boundaries are easier to enforce when they are written like doors. 3 months later, the county renewed our emergency overflow status. 6 months later, we received a facility improvement grant for kennel drainage, quarantine ventilation, and a new washer that did not walk across the floor during spin cycle. 8 months later, Dottie officially joined our board. She said she would only accept if we promised never to make her attend a gala. We promised. Brielle deleted every rescue post from her blog. Grant left his sales job and, according to a cousin, started consulting for small nonprofits in another county. I did not look him up. There are some rooms you leave by refusing to check whether the lights are still on. My mother came back to the rescue 11 months after the review. She did not walk in like she used to. She waited outside the gate and called me. I'm here, she said. I won't come in unless you say I can. That sentence did more than an apology would have. I went outside. She stood in the gravel, holding a bag of old towels. Not muffins, not a speech, not a family photograph. Towels. Useful things. She looked at the sign, then at the kennels, then at me. I used to think this place kept you from your life, she said. I waited. She swallowed. I think maybe it was your life, and I kept asking you to leave it. I took the towels. You did. Her eyes filled. I'm sorry. This time, the words had weight. Not enough to undo it. Enough to begin somewhere. She asked if she could volunteer. I said not yet. Her face fell, but she nodded. That mattered. A real apology does not demand immediate access as proof it worked. 1 year after the review, we held an adoption day in the gravel lot, behind the old shop. No banner with my family's name, no professional rebrand. Just folding tables, clean water bowls, volunteer name tags, shade tents, and a hand-painted sign Marisol made after 3 glasses of wine. Second Chance Hollow. No one waits outside if we have room. The sign was crooked. Perfectly crooked. At 9 o'clock, I unlocked the front gate. At 9:14, Finch, the orange cat with the terrible voice, went home with a retired librarian who said she liked talkative men. At 10:03, Waffles met a man who had also been called difficult and followed him around like they had been divorced in a previous life. At 11:22, Daisy came back with Paige wearing a pink harness and looking offended that other dogs existed. At noon, Bolt fell asleep under the registration table, while 3 children stepped carefully around him like he was a sleeping king. The yellow scanner sat beside the adoption forms. We had newer scanners by then, better ones, sleek black devices with clean screens and reliable batteries. But I kept the yellow one on the table, not because we needed it, because some objects do not retire when they stop being efficient. They become witnesses. Near the end of the day, a boy about 9 came up to me holding a leash attached to a nervous brown mutt. "Are you the lady who runs this place?" he asked. I looked down at my mud boots, my scratched hands, the scanner, the adoption forms, the dog hair on my sleeve. "Yes," I said, "I am." He nodded seriously. "My mom says you know which dogs need quiet people." I looked over at his mother. She smiled, nervous and hopeful. I knelt down, not too close to the dog. "Then let's find out if this one does." The dog sniffed my fingers. Then the boy's. Then he leaned against the boy's leg, like a decision had already been made. That is what my life became after the review. Not easy, not clean, not free from grief, but mine again. Mine in the morning when I unlocked the gate. Mine when the county portal opened under my name. Mine when the vet called at midnight. Mine when a scared animal stopped shaking. Mine when I hung the renewed license certificate in the office. Second Chance Hollow Animal Rescue. Licensed operator, Lydia Mercer. I stood under that certificate for a long time after everyone left. Bolt slept on his blanket. The washing machine hummed without moving across the floor. Rain tapped softly against the office window, and for once the building did not feel like something I had to defend. It felt like something that knew me back. If someone in your life calls your work help because they want the title, check the records. If they call your devotion heart because they want the authority, write down what you carried, not because you are bitter. Because someday, someone may stand in a public room and try to make your life sound smaller than it was. Memory can shake, family can pressure, love can blur the edges. But records do not get tired. They show who opened the door, who answered the call, who signed the intake, who stayed through the night, who knew the names. I used to think being kind meant leaving the gate open for anyone who called themselves family. Now I know better. Kindness without boundaries becomes a kennel someone else locks from the outside. Family is not the same thing as authority. Blood is not the same thing as permission. And patience is not a transfer agreement. I am still Lydia Mercer. I am still the woman with dog hair on her sleeves. I am still the one who carries frightened animals through the rain. But now my name is on the license, my code opens the registry, my signature holds the contract, and my father's sentence belongs to the work again. Nobody waits outside in February if there is a roof with room, but nobody gets to take the roof you built and call it family. That is what I learned. That is what I kept. And every morning, when the old yellow scanner beeps and the kennel lights come on, I no longer feel like the girl standing behind the work. I feel like the person the record always said I was here.
Thank you for watching. If you'd like to hear more, you can follow this channel. Don't forget to hit that little bell icon to be notified when a new video is uploaded.